Hello everybody. In this video we are going to be looking at a Swiss Army knife. This is the first Swiss Army knife that I've really featured on this channel. I've used one for comparison before, but this is the first video where we are going to focus on the Swiss Army knife. Now, I'm planning on doing some more videos on Swiss Army knives, some more comparisons, doing some how-tos and stuff like that. And I want to say first off that I like Swiss Army knives a lot. The Victorinox knives. They're good knives. They're usable knives, and I have a pretty large collection of them. But I tend to focus on case for a few particular reasons. But that does not mean that I don't like these Swiss Army knives. I really like them. They're good knives. But in my mind, in your mind, you may differ on some of these points. But this is kind of for those of you out there who have Swiss Army knives and pretty good collection of case knives also. This is how I generally view the two companies, because I view them quite differently. In my mind, when you compare Victorinox to Case, you get two main pluses for the Victorinox. First one is the price. The Victorinox is generally, you're going to be able to get a lot of their models cheaper than a lot of Case's models. This is the Tinker, and this video is about the Tinker. I wanted to start with the Tinker because, to me, the Tinker is the basis of any Swiss Army knife, besides maybe the classic SD, which is the little keychain knife. But there's the Tinker, there's the small Tinker, there's the Super Tinker, there's the Deluxe Tinker. But this is the regular Tinker, so we'll begin with it. But this particular knife, for instance, last I checked, it was going for $30 new. $30 new. Now an equivalent knife from Case would be at least in the $40 range, most likely. Case has a few of these knives in the $30 range, like the Sod Busters would be in the $30 range, but other than that, most of the Case knives would be on up there in price. So the Victorinox, for the most part, are going to come in a little cheaper than a lot of the Case knives. You can get expensive Victorinoxes, but it's not as common. Usually you can get it cheaper. So that's one advantage of the Victorinox. The other advantage is the functionality. For the price you're paying, you get a ton of functionality with a Victorinox knife. Just on this Tinker, you'll see you've got 4 tools in the knife, and then you've got 2 tools on the back, and a tool in each of the scales. We will look at them in a minute, and we'll show you what this knife has on it as a Tinker. But the functionality, if you're looking at a Case knife, something like maybe an mini trapper, you're going to get 2 blades. Because it's a knife, you're going to get your 2 blades. But now when you look at something like this Victorinox, you're going to get blades, can openers, bottle openers, screwdrivers. You're going to get more tools. So that's the other area in which Victorinox beats Case, is their functionality. They're more of a multi-tool than just a knife, where most Cases are primarily knives. The last thing I will say about a Victorinox before we dive into this Tinker is that the quality. When we talk about quality, a Victorinox knife, from the videos I've watched on their factory tour and all that I've learned and read about them, they are primarily assembled by machines. They say that a lot of their fancier, more expensive models that get up into the hundreds of dollars, that some of those are hand assembled. But the simple ones, the common ones like the Tinker and the knives like that, are assembled by machines. And because of that, they can ensure that their quality, as in their construction, is coming in just really, really good. You're not going to have to worry about loose blades for the most part, stuff like that, because the machine's putting it together. The human element of error has been taken out. But at the same time, that's one of the things I like about Case knives, is that they use machines to make them, but there is a lot of human work that goes into these knives. But that's the reason why sometimes you'll get something that's a little different or a little bit off about a Case, is because of the human element. So that being said, we're going to dive into this Tinker here. The Victorinox Tinker is their standard 91mm size Swiss Army knife. It comes in about 3.5 inches closed. You're going to have 2 blades. Your main blade is going to really be just a spear point blade. That's a good blade shape. It cuts great. It's a wonderful blade shape. The blades, you also notice, are pretty thin, so it will slice good. But this blade here, if you measure the cutting edge, you'll see that it comes in right about, see if I can get that right there, right about 2 3/8 inches of cutting edge. If we're going to compare that to the popular mini trapper, the mini trapper has the same length handle. It's 3.5 inches on the handle. And then if you compare the cutting edge here on the mini trapper, again, it's about 2 3/8, right around that. So these knives are going to be very similar when it comes to handle length and blade length, although they're different shapes, and these knives are a lot different. But your main blade on a Victorinox Tinker is going to be the standard Swiss Army knife spear point blade. There will not be any half stops. Your secondary blade is going to be this little pin blade. It's basically just a smaller version of the other blade. And this is going to be a pretty small little blade. If we measure the cutting edge on this blade, you can see there that it's somewhere around 1.5 inches. So it's a pretty short little blade, but it's a very useful blade. Again, it's very thin. It's very easy to bend it. It's a lot thinner than most of the blades on a case knife will be, which makes it a super good slicer, but also not quite as sturdy. The Victorinox also, the Tinker's going to have an bottle opener. Now this one right here has a half stop right there, and then it'll click on open. You've got your flat blade screwdriver at the top. You got your bottle opener here in the middle, and then you have a wire stripper cut out right here. Your last main blade or main tool on the Tinker is going to be your can opener, and you can use this to open a can. And then you have a small flat blade screwdriver right here on the top. So that's your main tool set on the Tinker. On the back, you're going to have a screwdriver. Now this is important because this is what makes the Tinker unique. The other main sets of Swiss Army knives that you are going to run into, this one here is a camper. You're going to notice they'll have the same 2 blades, same bottle opener, same can opener. But instead of having a Phillips screwdriver on the back, they are going to have this corkscrew on the back. Now, I prefer the Phillips screwdriver simply because I don't drink, and I've never opened a bottle of wine, and I never will, I don't assume. Nevertheless, I don't really need that corkscrew, where I'm going to use a Phillips screwdriver quite regularly. Now, I will say that you can use this corkscrew for other things. It's good for cleaning out your fingernails. It's good for getting a knot loose. It's got a lot of other uses too. But that's the first reason, is I get more use out of a Phillips screwdriver than I do a corkscrew. The next step beyond that is this corkscrew can cut into your hand. See how it sticks up beyond the scales there? You're not going to get that with the Phillips. See if I can hold these in a way that we can see how that on the left there, the corkscrew sticks up. That means that if you've got your small blade out and you're really cutting, that can really cut into your hand when it's held in a certain way. But that's what makes the Tinker series unique, is that instead of the corkscrew, you're getting the Phillips screwdriver on the back. Then the last main tool on the Tinker is going to be this awl, or this leather punch. I use this all the time, punching holes in plastic, and if you need to scrape something, it does a really good job. You can also see it's got a little eyelet, so if you need to use it with leather, you can punch it through. You can sew with it. So yeah, those are the main tools on the Tinker. Then you're going to have 2 other tools that are going to be common on Swiss Army knives. You've got a pair of tweezers. These are very, very useful. That's a great tool to have on there. Never talk bad about the Swiss Army knife tweezers. And the other tool is going to be your toothpick. Again, just a simple plastic toothpick. Can come in very useful. But that is the main set on the Victorinox Tinker. You can get smaller Tinkers, and every time you go up a size in the Tinker, the handle's not going to change. What's going to happen is you're going to get another tool or another 2 tools added into the knife. And so the knife will stay the same length and width, but it will start getting wider and wider like this. Keep getting wider and wider, and they can get really large. These are great knives. These are great tools. And you really can't go wrong with a Victorinox Tinker. Now, one thing I would say when I compare this to a case, because that's what I tend to do, is compare them. The steel. If you look at the steel on this knife, you all out there that know are going to know what I'm talking about. And those of you out there who don't know what I'm talking about, if you keep messing with knives, you'll figure it out soon. Steel can feel very different when you sharpen it. And on a ceramic stone, you can a lot of times almost feel how hard a steel is. And these Victorinoxes feel like they have a very soft steel. When you're swiping it and sharpening it on in ceramic stone, you can just feel it grab right in there. These have super soft metal, which means 2 things. You can get it super sharp, and you can do it super easy, but it may not stay as sharp as long. That's the drawback. That wouldn't prevent me from buying the knife. It's an excellent knife. So we will say that. Where a lot of cases, newer stainless, when you use it on a ceramic stone, you can feel that steel is a lot harder than the Swiss Army knife steel. And I did a test recently, some of y'all saw that, in which I tested, and this steel doesn't hold an edge quite as long as cases stainless does. But yeah, this is my initial overview of the Victorinox Tinker. In the next videos of Victorinoxes, we'll get into a lot deeper detail of the unique qualities of the different models and how they compare. And I'm also going to do a video that talks about the fit and finish of a Victorinox knife compared to a case, because it's going to be very interesting, because there are some ways in which a Victorinox is built a lot sturdier, and there are other ways in which a case has a lot better finish. So it's going to be an interesting comparison. But this is the initial video showing the Tinker and what the knife itself is like. Let me get these tools out of here. Those are the main tools there on the Tinker. Y'all have a good day, and comment down below how you feel about Swiss Army knives. Have a good day and keep your knives sharp.